to call the Saline City Council meeting to order. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With regret, I'd like to begin this evening's meeting with a moment of silence. As many of you are aware, just this past week we lost Wayne Clemens, a friend to many of us, an individual who dedicated a significant portion of his adult life to the Saline community, specifically to the Saline Area Historic Society. Without Wayne's leadership and contributions, that group would not have accomplished much of what it did over the past 25 or 30 years. Again, Wayne was a friend to many of us. He will be missed, and we extend our condolences and sympathy to all of his family and friends. So I'd ask for a moment of silence in respect of Wayne Clemens. Thank you very much. Okay, members present this evening are myself, Mayor Marl, Council members Gearbaugh, CO, Rhodes, McClellan, Tahar, and Dillon. From city staff, we have City Manager Campbell, Clerk Royal, City Treasurer Bennett, Wastewater Treatment Superintendent Skull is here, as well as Police Chief Rennick and DPW Director Fordyce. For the rest of you who are in the audience this evening, if you'd please sign in the back to my left, we would appreciate that. At this time, we will invite our council incumbent, Linda Tahar, as well as newcomers Heidi McClellan and Jack Seo forward to be sworn in. We have Judge Connors here, Washtenaw County Circuit Judge. Judge, we appreciate your time this evening. We appreciate that immensely. Who would you like to begin with, sir?
It does not matter to me, but Ms. McClellan's right here to the right.
Well, why don't we start with her? Okay. And if any of the council members would like to invite family forward, that's totally your preference.
Do you have the oath?
Do you want to go grab it? Okay.
We
Clerk
will
will
have
grab
it momentarily.
How are you? Why don't you introduce me to this file?
Hey, this is my daughter Avery,
Hello, Adrian.
Kaylee,
Kaylee.
and this is Quinn, my son Quinn.
Hello, Quinn.
And my husband's back from here. My mom and dad are here as well, and my big
Would you like to
sister.
come up?
Yeah.
Come up. In the past, we've had a big.
She's good. The clerk is going to retrieve it, Judge. Yep. I apologize for the inconvenience.
Oh, I didn't mean at all. Gives you a chance to stand up here in front of everybody. This is the first time for you?
Yeah.
Grand experience? Want to give any impromptu speeches to the crowd?
Yes. Quinn is in 8th grade, Avery is in 7th grade, and Taylor is in 5th grade. Middle school and Heritage.
All right, if you would raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me, or I'll ask you, then you'll affirm. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, that you will faithfully perform the duties as a member of City Council in and for the City of Saline, County of Washtenaw, State of Michigan, according to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, lady.
Thank you.
Is it okay if Ms. Tahar is next, Judge?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
There
Jack and I go way back. It's fitting he's at the end.
This is much easier.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and that you will faithfully perform the duties as a member of the Saline City Council in and for the City of Saline, County of Washington, State of Michigan, according to the best of your ability, so help you God. Thank you. All right, Jack, here we go. All right. Jack and I do go back a long time.
Taking many oaths with you.
If you raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and that I will faithfully perform the duties as a member of the Saline City Council in and for the City of Saline, County of Washington, State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Judge, thank you very much.
You don't need me to sign anything. We're all set.
Thank you.
Judge, we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, your wife, for attending as well.
I will.
Okay, my friends, at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless there are amendments. I do want to note that when you arrived this evening at your seat, you would have received a copy of my State of the City address as well as slightly revised, copies of the 2016 citizen appointments to boards and commissions as well as the 2016 council representatives to boards and commissions. So there were 3 supplementals provided this evening, and unless there are questions or changes to the agenda, again, the chair would accept a motion to approve it as submitted.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. All those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to presentations, which is the January State of the City address. So I will begin. Good evening, City Council, City Manager Campbell, Clerk Royal, distinguished guests, and my fellow citizens. I'm honored this evening to provide an update on the state of our city. As I have noted many times in the past, Saline is a very special place with many strengths, the most significant of which is our people. And I'm sure that my council colleagues agree with me that it's truly an honor to represent each and every one of you. Ensuring that this community is a safe place is perhaps the most fundamental responsibility of city government, and City Council specifically. As many in the community are aware, City Council and I have invested a significant amount of time preparing for and commissioning an independent review of the Saline Police Department. The report confirms that we have a strong and talented police department which is valued and respected in the community. The parameters of the review provided to the independent consultant, recently retired Undersheriff of Kent County John Hess, were carefully and deliberately developed. Mr. Hess was free to make any observation or recommendation he deemed appropriate. If he discovered any evidence of wrongdoing or improprieties, Mr. Hess was given the authority to report that to an outside entity without any influence by council or staff. In his report, Mr. Hess highlighted several areas of best practice and suggested changes. Thus, the report will serve as a valuable tool for the department's leadership in reviewing practices and organization. For example, it's clear that the department would benefit from work in the area of communication. Additionally, it is clear that the work that is being done currently to update the policy manual should continue. It's a vital resource as it provides continuity and direction for the department's leadership and staff, and the city will work to address these in the very near future. Moving forward, the city will conduct a more abbreviated review to ensure that issues that were addressed in the report are being resolved. As the report makes clear, the department can move forward in a positive direction, But such positive movement will depend on the constructive engagement and hard work of all of the police department. Finally, in the coming months, I will organize a work group to review and investigate the feasibility of establishing an independent police advisory board within city government. It is not clear at this point whether this would be beneficial to Saline, but we know of many communities throughout the region and throughout Michigan who have used this model successfully, in particular focusing on community engagement and departmental policies. In the coming year, I look forward to working with a re-energized substance abuse prevention task force. As we plan for the future, there may be opportunities to partner with countywide and regional organizations also working on these important issues. At the same time, based on my own research and the insights from community members active on this issue, I believe that Saline deserves and Saline needs a part-time substance abuse coordinator. I hope that the community leadership will work with me to understand the benefit of such a role and the potential impact on the Saline area. As I mentioned in my mid-year address in July, the city will organize a meeting including members of the healthcare community, along with other community stakeholders, to discuss how we can better collaborate to meet Saline's healthcare needs moving forward. Key organizations have committed to participating in this meeting, which will be held in February and, of course, open to the public. Central to the discussion will be the question of how we can think and act more strategically to meet our needs. Being good stewards of public resources will continue to be a priority in 2016. The work we have done to scrutinize and to evaluate every expenditure, and the adoption of a fund balance policy and the city's improved bond rating all represent city government's emphasis on stabilizing and improving our city's financial position. Our budget, of course, is a reflection of our priorities and our values, and I'm proud of the budget we are currently under, which provided additional funds for the police department, as well as support for Rec on the Go and a new part-time standalone code enforcement officer. That position has been filled, and our new part-time code enforcement officer started just today. Last year, council discussed how we can best utilize some of the dollars in our fund balance. When we have additional funds, I believe they need to be prioritized to infrastructure, specifically to our major and local streets. There are few areas within our budget that have more of a profound impact on people's day-to-day lives than roads and infrastructure. In 2015, we completed projects on Harris Street, as well as Park Place and Echo Court, and repaired much of the parking lot at our recreation complex. In 2016, the city will work on streets within the Maplewood Farm subdivision, as well as other projects. I believe it's imperative, again, that when additional dollars that are not earmarked for other purposes be directed towards our roads whenever possible. As everyone knows, in 2016, Michigan Avenue will be reconstructed from the dam adjacent to Curtis Park to the intersection at Maple Road. At the same time, the city will be working to modernize our streetscape. I am very proud of the work that Saline Main Street, City Council, staff, and a variety of community stakeholders have put into this project already. That work has included discussions of detour plans, deciding on design features, and ways in which pedestrian safety and walkability can be enhanced in our downtown. While a construction project of this magnitude will invariably cause delays and inconveniences, I am convinced that upon completion we will have a road and a streetscape that will serve Saline well for decades to come. The city has continued work to improve our sidewalks, and of course those efforts will continue during the construction season of 2016. Our approach and the work we have done to improve the condition and walkability of our sidewalks represents the most comprehensive effort the city has taken on this issue in more than 25 years. Additionally, I hope that we complete the rehabilitation of our wastewater treatment plant in 2016. Not unlike the issue of sidewalks, the multi-million-dollar investment we're making into the plant is the most significant in decades. The result will be a more modern, safer, and efficient plant. Of course, when we have construction projects of this magnitude, there are going to be issues and delays. Unfortunately, that has included some increased odor issues. Staff is working diligently to resolve those, and because we take these issues so seriously, we may be doing some additional work to our plant's odor scrubbers to help mitigate some of the smells. These are extraordinarily complex issues, and that means that the solutions are often complex and tough to find. One thing I think we need to be more strategic about is the connectivity between our parks. The Parks Commission has discussed the connection between Curtis Park and Mill Pond Park specifically. and I have invited former council member and current park commissioner Jim Peters to address this issue at one of our upcoming council meetings. My hope is that when people look back on 2016, they will say that the city's primary efforts and the mayor's biggest focus was on economic development and creating an atmosphere and an environment where business development and entrepreneurship can flourish. When we talk about economic development, it's not just supporting existing businesses and encouraging new businesses. It's also about cultivating new investment, specifically as it relates to housing. I am proud that in recent months, the city has finalized the sale of 207 Monroe Street, and development is progressing nicely at the former Houghton School property. We also know of some not yet announced projects that will be very exciting to the entire Saline community. I'm also pleased to see the ongoing expansion at Laybear, as well as an announced multi-million-dollar addition at MMI Engineered Solutions. The Code and Ordinance Review Task Force, continues to work diligently. The task force has begun to review my suggestion of changing some of the zoning and land use requirements in the industrial parks to create more flexibility and adopt a more contemporary approach. Regardless of whether it's industrial businesses or small boutique retail establishments, know that our talented and committed staff will meet with anyone, work with anyone, provide support, and help cultivate new relationships to bring additional services, investment, and jobs to the Saline community. We strive for a robust local economy, a diverse and robust local economy that meets the needs of those we represent. The city recently established a sesquicentennial task force along with its 6 subcommittees, and it has already begun work preparing for the 2016 celebration of Saline's 150th year. I'm very impressed by the leadership of this group and the people who have volunteered to participate. These groups are so important because they help to maintain and enhance a sense of community identity. Also, the city is continuing our efforts to update our city master plan, non-motorized, and parks and recreation master plans. These are vital documents that provide direction and clarity moving forward. We strongly encourage public feedback, and there is a way for citizens to share their thoughts online. Saline will continue to engage with the people we represent, and I will continue to do my part as much as possible. In fact, I am holding one of my regular coffee hours next week on January the 11th at 10:30 a.m. at Kerrigan's Cafe downtown. Mayor Pro Tem David Rhodes will also attend to provide an update on the Saline Nature Preserve, a very exciting new development. As many already know, City Council will have a goal and strategy session in the coming weeks. Subsequent to that session, I will bring to Council a proposed ethics pledge, something that many other communities have throughout the state and the country. I think it's important to clarify that I'm not bringing this forward out of concern. To the contrary, I believe it's imperative for leaders to hold themselves to the highest possible standard and set an example for others. It will continue to be a personal goal of mine to encourage volunteerism within our community, specifically on city boards and commissions. Clerk Royal is currently planning another volunteer fair later this spring. Additionally, I had a recent conversation with County Commissioner Alicia Ping on the issue of increasing Saline's representation on county and regional boards and organizations, because I think Saline has a lot of insights and thoughts to offer. Needless to say, our efforts and recent successes would not have been possible without the dedicated and talented staff members and my colleagues on City Council. And again, I want to acknowledge the tremendous efforts made by Mayor Pro Tem David Rhodes, Council members Janet Dillon, Dean Gearbaugh, and Linda Tahar. I also want to welcome our newest council members, Jack Seo and Heidi McClellan, who have already contributed to our community in innumerable ways. And again, I want to take this opportunity to thank former council members Jim Roth and Terry Seibel-Koenig. They are missed, but I'm glad that they will continue to be involved. Clearly, the city has a vision for the future, and we will continue to focus on the important issues, the issues that have the most impact on citizens' quality of life. And of course, I continue to believe that our best days are ahead of us. Thank you, God bless you, and may God bless Saline. Okay, moving on the agenda, we come to citizen comments on agenda items. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comment or question on an item that appears on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments? No citizen comments. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Har. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business, item 16-07, appointment of Mayor Pro Tem for 2016. This will be a motion to appoint or not to appoint Councilmember David Rhodes to serve as Mayor Pro Tem for 2016.
Move to appoint.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Har, seconded by Councilmember Gearbaugh. Any discussion? Well, let me just say, in keeping with tradition, my council colleagues will recall, and for those of you who do not, I prefer to appoint a mayor pro tem for 2 consecutive years, and that's what I did in 2013 and 2014 by having Ms. Tahar serve as mayor pro tem. Of course, I requested that David Rhodes be appointed mayor pro tem in 2015. He did an extraordinary job. He does an excellent job in everything that he does, and so therefore, I am requesting that he again be appointed mayor pro tem in 2016. Would you care to comment, sir?
Just that I'd like to say that I thank you for the nomination, and I appreciate the support that I've received in the past from council and city staff, and look forward to serving as mayor pro tem for another year.
Very good. Any additional discussion? No? Then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Tahar, seconded by Gearbaugh to appoint. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-08. This is renovation of well number 2. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the December 28th, 2015 memo from Superintendent Skull and to approve or not to approve additional work in the amount of $5,364.56 on well number 2 at the wastewater treatment plant.
Move to acknowledge and to approve.
Thank you, Councilmember Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. Superintendent Skull, do you care to make any comment this evening, sir?
Just real quick, it's at the water treatment plant, not the wastewater plant.
Okay.
And this well has been maintained over the years. It's just the age of it will require the column be replaced. It's corroded. We didn't realize that until we pulled the shaft and the impeller out for the improvements. That the shaft has not been perforated, but it's corroded, and it's just time to do it while we have the crew out.
Appreciate you acknowledging that this is at the water plant, not the wastewater treatment plant, and we'll make that correction without objections. Without objection. Is there any questions for our superintendent, Mr. Skull? No questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time this evening. Any subsequent discussion? No discussion, then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Gearbaugh, seconded by Dillon, to acknowledge receipt and to approve, noting again that it's at the water plant, not the wastewater treatment plant. All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. The last new business item of the evening is 16-09, Sesquicentennial Seal. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the December 29th, 2015 memo from Treasurer Bennett, and to approve or not to approve the Sesquicentennial Seal as presented.
Move to acknowledge receipt and to approve.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McClellan. Ms. Bennett, do you care to make any comment at all? It's pretty self-explanatory. The memo doesn't state this, but as Ms. Bennett knows and the members of the Sesquicentennial Task Force know, this design is, it very closely mirrors what was done in 1966 for the city's centennial celebration. And again, it was drafted by former council member Roth and was considered and discussed at a subsequent Sesquicentennial Task Force meeting. Mr. Rhodes, please.
Will the logo be presented in color at some time, and if so, what would those colors be?
I think at this time, the only time, the marketing committee is asking for your approval on this to, there may be tweaking at it, but at this point, it was thought to be left in black and white for the past as a present, because, in our past.
Okay.
But marketing and the marketing team may have tweaks and changes to that, which will come back to the council for approval.
I sit on that committee, and I think the idea is to keep it a one color. There was talk about having products and things like that with
in orange for orange Wisdom, but I think it's one color, whether it's black or white or whatever it is, but.
I think it serves well in black and white.
Indeed. Additional questions or comments? No? It's been properly moved then by Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes, seconded by Councilwoman McClellan to acknowledge receipt and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to the discussion portion of our agenda. Are there any commission, committee, or task force reports from council members? My hunch is that we probably do not have any, but
No.
thought I'd ask. No? How about reports or other announcements? Well, I'll just show these off for a moment. As was referenced at our last council meeting, when I presented some certificates to former council members Roth and Seibel Koenig, we were in the process of getting some plaques made, and as you can see, those plaques have been completed, and they turned out very nice. And so there's one here for both Terry Seibel Koenig and James Roth, if you'd like to take a look at them after the meeting. And the clerk will be following up with both of them tomorrow, letting them know that they can pick these plaques up here at City Hall whenever it's convenient for them. But I think they turned out really nice, so I want to thank Deputy Clerk Bloom for coordinating this project, and of course Terry for assisting. I think it's just, quite frankly, I think it's the least that we can do to acknowledge their service and their contributions. As I said in my speech, we miss them, but we thank them for their service and glad that they're staying involved in the Saline community. So, just wanted to share those with you. Mr. Rhodes, did you have a report or other announcement?
No, actually, I didn't
Okay.
this time.
All right, I thought I saw your hand go up. My apologies.
Well, I thought about it, but I decided not.
Any other reports or announcements? Well, then last this evening is a street lighting coalition update, and DPW Director Fordyce, I believe you're taking the lead on that? The floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you. The last update provided to council was back in September. The coalition had met a few times and formed a position and was getting ready to file information with the Public Service Commission. So since that time, the coalition filed that with the commission. DTE had an opportunity to respond to the coalition's position, and then there was another kind of round of back and forth stuff. And then that was reviewed by an administrative law judge who put together, excuse me, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, a proposal for a decision. And usually there's a little bit of one position and a little bit of the other position in those proposals. But in this case, the administrative law judge pretty much completely agreed with the street lighting coalition and supported all their positions and recommended to the Public Service Commission that DTE be encouraged to participate in a collaborative tariff setting process, working with coalition and their customer communities to find a strategy and a tariff that would encourage development of LED lighting and increase energy efficiency opportunities. The Michigan Public Service Commission then met in December to review that proposal for decision and adopted it. So they don't have the authority to direct DTE to participate in a collaborative decision, but they recommended it, and DTE seems to be amenable to that. There have been at least one informal meeting between the coalition's executive board and DTE Community Lighting Department to kind of lay the groundwork of this, and expect the formal collaborative process to begin in February, anticipating about 5 meetings over the course of 2 or 3 months to come up with a new set of tariffs for street lighting, as well as strategies to make the whole process easier, to make upgrading to LED lights simpler.
Very good. And I assume as things progress, you will continue to keep us in the loop and request time on a council agenda when it's appropriate.
Yes, and leading up to that, the original mandate of the coalition is complete. So there was a call for membership, and there was a contribution to the legal fund for that. That part is done, so the coalition is now at the last general membership meeting, voted that if a collaborative process was ordered, that the coalition would then transition to be a representative body for member communities. So they are planning a membership meeting yet this month to review the anticipated costs of that process, and we'll probably be returning with a request for some additional funding.
Very good. Thank you. Questions or comments for Mr. Fordyce? Mr. Gearbaugh, please.
Do we have any idea of what potential funding is going to, I mean, you just mentioned it, but funding available to continue replacement to the city? Because I know there's some of the subdivisions which have not yet been.
Yeah, we have a significant number of high-pressure sodium lights still out there, which are reasonably efficient, but not as good as LED. And I'm not sure where we stand on mercury vapor, mercury vapor. Those are the ones that have the highest tariffs right now, and we get the most bang for our buck. We certainly have a lot of lights left that could be converted. We've done a fairly significant amount, but haven't done any in the past 2 years, and hope that part of this process will make that much easier. But in the budget right now, I don't think we have any funding in the current fiscal year budget for streetlight conversions, but it's certainly an item to get into next year's budget.
Yeah, thanks. I know we were doing it as a result of matching funds from DT and so forth, so I didn't know if that was coming up, but it sounds like potentially there is. Thank you.
Yeah, we've done very well with getting money from DTE to help fund our conversions. Our first round was probably 99% funded by DTE, and the second round was probably around 45-50% funded by DTE.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Any additional questions or comments for DPW Director Fordyce? Mr. Rhodes, Mayor Pro Tem, please.
Yeah, while there's not a particular line item budget for replacing more of the streetlights, it should be noted that all of the lighting that's going in on Michigan Avenue from Maple down to Curtis Park is all going to be LED.
That's right, and so that'll include the conversion of roughly 100 light fixtures from high-pressure sodium to LED as part of that Michigan Avenue project.
Great. Anything else then? No? Mr. Fordyce, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. If there's nothing else on that issue or any other, we come to the second public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments? Please.
My name's, excuse me, my name's John Heller, 213 Sheffield, and I hadn't planned to make a comment tonight, but in Brian's address, he mentioned wrongdoing in the police department and that Mr. Hess had a mandate to look into that. But I'd just like to point out to me, there's a big discrepancy that's taken place in regard to that, and that is when there are allegations of bribery made about the DPW director and a DPW employee, you called in an outside law enforcement agency to investigate those. When there was allegations of a police officer committing rape, you did not call in an outside law enforcement agency. Instead, you had an investigation by the city attorney, and now you apparently had an investigation by Mr. Hess. The thing is, both of those entities are in your employ, so that raises the question of objectivity and whether or not those investigations were in fact conducted by a neutral source. And I think that's a big discrepancy between how you handled those two, and I think that should be addressed. And unless that's addressed, I don't think the police department's going to be able to move forward. And the issues surrounding all of that should be addressed as well. Thank you.
Any other citizen comments? No, then please note that we have upcoming meetings next Monday on January the 11th at 7:30, and then another one on February the 1st at 7:30. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:03 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I'll let that one go to Mr. CO tonight. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. This meeting is adjourned. Yep, the clerk would like everyone to hang tight so that we can take a picture here.
Was the font always a